Welcome to Genetics 11, Common Types of Crossing Systems. This will be the last video in the genetics section of Animal Science 1101, Introductory Animal Breeding. So previously we talked about rotational crossing systems. Now we have a few more to talk about in this presentation. So the first system that we're going to talk about is the terminal cross, or another term for this is a fixed crossing system. All resulting animals will go to market in the case of food animals, or at least not being used for breeding, as in the case of companion animals like horses or dogs. So this is what the system might look like. Here we have the maternal line, and here we have the what we call the terminal line, and here we're going to have the market animal. So the three-breed terminal cross is the most popular mating systems for producing pork, in which we have two breeds. Develop our females, and then the third breed and market animals. And this might very well be the most popular breed combinations. Yorkshires and Landrays tend to make the best females. We make that additional cross, and we call that the F1 gilts. And then we'll find a good terminal breed. Durocs are known for fast rate of gain, very healthy pigs, and good feed efficiency, and one of the best breeds for meat quality. So as far as these F1 gilts, we're going to have 100% available heterosis because the parents are unrelated to each other. And then we come with a third breed, unrelated to the females, and the market pigs will have 100% of the available heterosis because the parents of the market pigs were not related to each other. The advantages of this three-breed terminal cross is that we get 100% of maximum heterosis in both the mothers and the offspring. And also we can use maternal breeds for the mothers exclusively. So the white breeds, Yorkshire and Landrace, are known as maternal breeds because they excel as mothers. And this is what's known as using the breeds in a complementary fashion for crossbreeding. There are just a couple of disadvantages. I guess one main disadvantage is that we need to maintain purebreds to produce the replacement females. And in the previous video we had talked about a rotational system in which we can just select the females from our market animals. But here we have to have a designated breeding program to produce those F1 gilts. And this would be more expensive than just selecting our females from the market animals. What type of mating system is used to produce a Labradoodle? So we've got a poodle here bred to a lab, or you can do it vice versa. We get this offspring that is 1/2 lab, 1/2 poodle. Well, most times you would not probably mate this F1 dog here, this Labradoodle. So Labradoodles make excellent pets, but most people would not use them as a breeding animal. You definitely could. But if you don't, I'd call it a two-breed terminal cross or two-breed fixed cross. And people also call these designer dogs, and they do make great pets. Well, here's another example of one of those designer dogs, and I think this is somewhat of a handsome fellow here. One other crossing system with exactly quite a different purpose is what's known as grading up. Prevents the changing the herd from one breed to a totally different breed without buying females. So usually semen or buying a male is a lot cheaper than replacing females. So we'll use an example of beef cattle. Let's say that we inherited a group of inferior cows, all right? So our great-great-uncle died. He left us a farm with some cows. Well, they're just a mixed up group, kind of lack uniformity, and so we need a more uniform group so that when we sell the weaned calves, we can top the market. So we'd like to grade them up to the Angus breed, which is the most popular beef breed, all right? So we could possibly just sell all these cows and buy Angus cows, but unfortunately we don't have the money to do that. So we're going to go through a grading up program. How does that work? So we start out here, we've got our cows. We're going to buy some Angus semen, and yeah, and we're going to get hopefully a lot of good offspring. So the offspring are going to be genetically 1/2 Angus, 1/2 of the original scrub cows, but hopefully we're going to get some heterosis, and performance-wise they should be better than the genetics that we started with. So for the next generation, we've got these crossbred offspring, which again should be better than what we started with, and we're going to keep these for cows for the next generation. We're going to buy some Angus semen again, unrelated to our previous Angus cattle. We don't want to do inbreeding here. And so we're going to mate these, and we're going to get offspring that are going to be 3/4 Angus. So resulting calves are 3/4 Angus, and we'll go to the next generation. So we're going to save young stock from the second generation, 3/4 Angus, 1/4 original genetics. Buy some good Angus semen again. Resulting offspring are going to be 7/8 Angus. And at that point, we're probably not going to be able to tell too much difference between these 7/8 Angus and purebred Angus. So we have pretty much graded up now to the Angus breed. And by the 4th generation then, we're actually at 15/16 Angus, and at that point we should be able to get all the premiums when we sell our calves as certified Angus beef. Well, we can do some more extreme crossing in which we can cross species. And if species are too distantly related, say you try to cross a rabbit with a pig, you're not going to get any viable offspring. But we can cross horses with donkeys, and horses and donkeys share the same ancestors if you go back maybe 50,000 years or so. So we do get viable offspring. But they're distantly related enough that mules are going to be sterile. but they're hardy animals, they're healthy animals. We can do one cross, or we can do the reciprocal cross. So it's most often you're going to have a female mare cross with a male donkey, and that's what's called a mule. A male horse with a female donkey is known as a henny, and generally mules are superior to hennies, and societies have been producing mules for at least a couple of thousand years. Pretty good animals. They're sterile, but they're long-lived and healthy. Another species crossing system relatively popular is European breeds times Brahman. And you tend to get a lot of heterosis, especially in that initial cross, and maybe a little less heterosis as you cross from there. So anyway, European breeds developed in temperate climates, Western Europe and England. Brahmans were developed in hot, humid, tropical areas. So if you need heat resistance, also animals that are longer lived, do better on poor quality forages, we can introduce some Brahmans. Disadvantage of Brahmans is they tend to be lighter muscled with poor meat quality. So we don't tend to raise Brahmans or Brahman crosses in Minnesota, but if you go down south to Texas, Alabama, Florida, you'll find a lot of Brahmans and Brahman crosses. So an interesting breed that was developed from crossing of Brahmans with Bos Taurus, temperate breeds, is the Beefmaster. The Beefmaster is a popular breed as you go further south in the United States. It was a result of crossing Brahmans with Herefords and Shorthorn. They come in different colors, but very popular cattle. Your Bos Indicus cross is generally going to have bigger ears, looser skin, kind of help dissipate heat, but make pretty good quality cattle. Back about 130 years ago now, people experimented with crossing European cattle with the American bison or buffalo. So these are a lot more distantly related. If the initial cross, the males are all sterile. The F1 females have poor fertility, but they can be bred. So they are bred, they are back crossed. What we're trying to do is get the hardiness of the bison, because these buffalo evolved by themselves out in the western plains, lived through drought, lived through blinding blizzards, and do well. So we're trying to get the hardiness of the American buffalo into the European cattle that were imported. But it's been my experiment with very limited success. A lot of times we make the initial cross, and then we select animals from these crosses that look the most like beef animals, and tend to lose the buffalo genetics. So anyway, species cross, people have worked with it, limited success as of today. Another cross that has been promoted somewhat but hasn't really become very popular is crossing cattle with yaks. And so here's a picture of a yak cross heifer. Got more hair on the tail. Yaks are smaller than cattle. And the whole idea was you'd have more vigorous type animal that you could use in a fixed cross where the beef cows were half yak. Very fertile animals and could do well on sparse forages. But like I say, in theory, it might be able to work. In practice, it has not become very popular. But you can cross cattle with yaks. They're different species. The offspring tend to be pretty fertile. In the section on sheep and goats, we'll talk about the differences between sheep and goats. There's some similarities, but there's an awful lot of difference. But they're similar enough that a male goat will breed a female sheep. You get fertilization, but they seldom go to term, and vice versa. So rams of the different species, you don't want to mix with females during the breeding season. Once in a while, you will get animals that will go to term, and you'll get a cross. The cross are all sterile, kind of unique looking animals, but certainly not a viable species cross that you want to try to breed for. Seems that humans are always experimenting, so here they artificially inseminated a llama with camel semen, and they got this cross sterile as far as I know. They're trying to get the best of characteristics from camels and llamas, but they tended to get average individual born that really didn't fit the characteristics that people wanted. Here's just a F1. Again, got the llama mother that was crossed with the camel. We got an offspring called a Llama, and anyway, species cross to see what would happen, and the cross has been more or less discontinued, I guess, but kind of interesting. Just a couple of definitions to finish up the crossbreeding system. Assortative mating versus disassortative mating. So assortative mating is breeding like to like. So we've got some females there, and we've got some males, and you might you can't breed all the females to the best male, so the best females you're going to breed to the best male, and then on down the line. That'd be known as assortative mating. Another example of that, you could breed the tallest males to the tallest females, and mate the shortest males to the shortest females. Again, you're just mating individuals that are more alike to each other. Disassortative, or sometimes corrective mating, we're mating opposites. So you mate the tallest males to the shortest females, short males to the tall females, and the advantage of that is that you'd have more uniformity in your offspring. All the offspring would be average, whereas when we did assortative mating, we're going to kind of spread out the variation in the offspring. Generally, we want offspring that look more alike to each other, get more uniformity in our offspring, and we can do that with disassortative mating. With corrective mating, we're selecting sires to correct the worst fault in our females. So as you look at this cow here, she looks like a pretty happy cow, but one thing we might notice is that the conformation of her front feet seem to be a little lacking. They're pointing in two different directions. So we should probably find a male that's going to help improve that conformation. So we found a bull with very straight legs to mate with this cow that toes out, and hopefully we'll get an offspring with excellent conformation. So corrective mating, we're going to try to correct the worst fault or faults in our females by our sire selection. And that includes the last video of the genetics section, and hope you're having a good day.